All right, we are live. I'm gonna go ahead and start because it's gonna be a lot because of the homework, but it's all good. First, let me get to my right page. Oh, by the way, happy Valentine's.
Happiest reader.
Sweetie. If we could announce, let's do roll call. Nothing's muted yet, so
Good morning, Mr. Liz. This is Kristen.
Kristen,
So this Kamani and Caitlin.
Caitlin,
Good morning, this is Jalen.
Jalen,
Good morning. This is Jaden.
Jaden,
Good morning, this is MJ.
MJ,
Good morning, this is Kayla.
Kayla. That it? Is that everybody?
Good morning. This is Leslie. Good morning, family.
Good morning. Juniors, is that it? That everybody? Okay. Like I said, it's a lot, so we're gonna move on. I appreciate all that's here, and I'm gonna let you start with your homework because mine is a little deep.
Mr. Lewis, can I go first?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so monetary interest. Monetary interest is the extra money you get when you save or lend money. It's like a reward for letting someone use your money. For example, if you put $100 in the bank and the bank gives you 5% interest, you'll have $105 after a year. And the extra $5 is the monetary interest you earned. Checks and balance. Checks and balance is a system. Hold on. Checks and balance is a system that keeps the government fair by making sure no one branch gets too much power. Uh, each branch can stop the others from making bad decisions. For example, if Congress passes a law that the president thinks is unfair, the president can veto it. But if Congress really wants the law, they can override the veto with enough votes. This keeps the power balanced between the branches. Stock exchange. Stock exchange is a marketplace where people buy and sell shares of companies. It helps businesses raise money and give investors a chance to earn a profit by trading stocks. For example, if you buy a share of Nike and on the stock exchange for $50 and the price goes up to $70, you can sell it and make a $20 profit. But if the price goes down, you could lose money too. Crypto exchange. Crypto exchange is an online platform where people buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. it works like a stock exchange, but instead of company shares, people trade digital money. Some crypto exchanges also let users swap one type of cryptocurrency for another. For example, if you buy one Bitcoin on a crypto exchange for $30,000 and later sell it for $35,000, you make a $5,000 profit. But if the price drops to $25,000, you would lose $5,000 instead. And that's it for me.
Excellent job. Thank you, sir.
I would like to go next.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, get out my face. Uh, interest. Interest is the cost of borrowing money, which can be a reward for lending money or a stockholder's ownership in a company. Checks and balances. Checks and balances is a system that prevents one organization from having too much power. Stock exchange. Stock exchange is an exchange. An exchange is a centralized marketplace where investors can buy and sell securities like stocks and bonds. Crypto exchange. Crypto exchange is a cryptocurrency exchange marketplace that allows people to buy and sell cryptocurrency exchanges along with other assets like NFTs. And I have an extra word here too, decentralization. Decentralization is the transfer of control over activity or organization to several local offices instead of one.
Excellent. Thank you for the addition. Decentralization is very important. You're getting ready to see it in a major way.
Mr. Lewis, can I go?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Monetary interest is the amount paid for borrowing money. This can be expressed as a percentage over a period of time. It could be set at a fixed rate, meaning that it will not change and will stay the same, or a floating rate, meaning it will either go high or low over time. That is the definition for interest rate, and this ties itself into monetary policy because it's an instrument used by a government or a country's banking system to control the economy by influencing the money supply and borrowing costs. It's basically a line of defense that a country will use in order to control the money flow and supposedly aid with economic growth. Checks and balance is a network that is specifically designed to prevent a single branch of government from having too much control or power. This idea was presented as a way for each branch of government to check each other. For example, the three branches are legislative, executive, and judicial. The legislative branch can override treaties, they can impeach and remove a president, which keeps the executive branch in line. The executive branch can override laws passed by Congress, which keeps the legislative branch in line. The judicial branch can determine whether or not laws passed by Congress and the president are illicit or unconstitutional, which keeps both the legislative and executive branch in line. This development came about in ancient Rome when a Greek statesman known as Polybius made an analysis of his government. He referred to it as a mixed regime with three different branches: monarchy, aristocracy, and democracy. This idea later became the foundation for the evolution of the separation of powers throughout the government. Centuries later, during the Enlightenment, Baron de Montesquieu, an English philosopher, wrote that the greatest threat the government faces is despotism. This can further be substantiated in his book called The Spirit of Laws. He then explained that the best way to prevent this from happening was to create a system of separation of powers. This was then later picked up by the U.S. Constitution. Stock exchange is a public market where safeguards can be bought and sold. Companies and local businesses are able to raise capital, and investors are able to make illuminated decisions through the stock exchange. These exchanges can happen physically or they can happen virtually. The origins of the New York Stock Exchange can be traced all the way back to the Button Agreement, which was signed on May 17th, 1792 by 24 stockbrokers as the nation was facing a financial plummet. The agreement set rules for how stocks can be exchanged or traded. It also was established for the people to have confidence in the market and that these deals were being conducted by trusted parties. Crypto exchange is a complete digital marketplace that allows people to buy, sell, or trade cryptocurrency. It is similar to a stock exchange, except this only happens virtually. In order to participate in an exchange, you have to use a crypto exchanging platform such as Coinbase, Crypto.com, or Robinhood. You would then sign up and provide documents that prove your identity. You would then fund your account with cryptocurrencies or local currencies such as fiat. Then you would place orders to make trades. The best exchange platforms will have on-the-chain security that will allow you to make these exchanges with low fees and the best tools in order to do so. And that is it for me.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. I appreciate it
Mr.
greatly.
Lewis, could I go next?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Monetary interest is the money someone earns from lending their money to someone else, like when you put money in the bank and the bank pays you a little extra over time. It's a way to make money just by letting someone else use your money for a while. The interest rate decides how much money you earn based on how much you lend. For example, if you save $1,500 and the interest rate is 5%, you will earn $75 after a year. It encourages people to save money or interest their money instead of just spending it. Checks and balances is a system used in the government to make sure that no one branch becomes too powerful. The three branches, legislative, executive, and judicial, each have powers that can limit or check the other branches. For example, Congress can pass a law, but the president can veto it, and the extreme court can declare the unconstitutional. This system helps protect people's rights by preventing any branch from abusing its power. It's like a team where everyone watches each other to keep things fair. A stock exchange is a place where people buy and sell shares, which are small pieces of ownership in companies. Companies sell shares to raise money, and investors buy them, hoping the company will do well so they can make a profit. Famous stock exchanges include the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. Prices of stock exchange based on how well companies are doing and how much investors want their shares. It's kind of like a big marketplace, but instead of food or clothes, people are trading pieces of businesses. A crypto exchange is a digital platform where people buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Cryptocurrencies are digital money that doesn't need a bank and works using special technology called blockchain. On a crypto exchange, you can swap regular money for crypto or trade one type of crypto for another. Prices go up and down depending on how many people want to buy or sell. It's like a stock exchange, but instead of company shares, people trade at digital coins. And that's it.
Perfect job. Thank you so much.
Mr. Lewis, may I go next?
Yes, please.
Okay. Monetary interest is money paid on a loan or investment. It is the borrower paying the lender for the privilege of borrowing money. It is a calculated percentage on the principal, which is the borrowed money. There are two types of interest: simple interest, which is calculated on the principal amount, and compound interest, which is the principal plus gathered interest, which results in a bigger cost. Checks and balances is a system in place that prevents any one branch of the government from having too much power. Each of the three government branches, judicial, legislative, and executive, have different powers and can check the power of the other branch. Checks and balances were used to balance out power and make sure all views and interests are being represented. This was presented in the United States Constitution in 1787, but came into effect in 1789. Stock exchange is a centralized location where the shares of publicly traded companies are bought and sold. Stock exchange only trade assets that are limited to stocks and bonds. Stock exchange could have a physical location or become a platform online. Cryptocurrencies are like a stock exchange, but buying and selling cryptocurrencies, and it's entirely online. For crypto exchange, you have to provide documentation of identity, and it's completely digital, and you can be at risk for hacks and scams, and that is why some platforms offer security benefits. And that's it for me.
Okay, perfect job.
Can I
Real
go
quick,
next?
yeah, hold on one second.
Mhm.
So I want to correct some words so we're saying them correctly so we remember. Kristen, yours was NASDAQ. That's what that NDAQ. NASDAQ is another name for the trade community. And yours is judicial. Judicial is the system, part of that system. Now you can go right ahead, please.
Okay. Monetary interest. Monetary interest just means you have money involved in something. So basically, like if you care about what happens, like if you want to invest in a company or you want it to do well, you could make money or you could lend your friend like $10 or something. Checks and balance. Checks and balance is a system that prevents any one part of the government from having too much power. Each branch can limit the others to keep things fair and balanced. Stock exchange. Stock exchange is a place where people buy and sell shares of companies. It's like a marketplace for stocks where investors trade to make money. And famous examples include the New York Stock Exchange. Crypto exchange. Crypto exchange is a platform where people can buy and sell and trade cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. It works like a stock exchange, but for digital currencies instead of company shares.
Yep.
Yep, that's it.
Excellent job. And your word is Ethereum. Ethereum. Okay. Anybody else? And everybody?
Hello, Mr. Montalvo. This is Stacy. I have my children's information here, but my son is working. Of course, my daughter and my husband went to go pick him up. His shift should be ending soon. So am I allowed to read what they left me behind or no?
No.
Okay.
That's all right. There's one more.
Hold on real quick, what's up?
That's okay, come on. Don't force. All right, let's move on. Thank you all for your effort that you're putting forth to these things. I know it has nothing to do with school. And it's on the weekend. I appreciate the effort that you put into this work. It means a lot to me. It really does, because what it does at the beginning, and let me say this before we go any further, any and all things that I speak on or talk about on this call is for educational and entertainment purposes. I do not have license to give financial advice, medical, and or legal. If you need help in those areas, please get a licensed individual to give you what you need. But I am a citizen of the United States of America, and I use every bit of the amendments and I put them forth on every effort because this is my country and I shall speak. Okay, I just want to put that out there just in case we have some disagreement in some of the things that I may speak on, and that's healthy. I don't want any of you as young people to get an idea in your head and be so strong on it that you can't hear someone else's view. That's called being bullheaded. Don't be bullheaded. Everybody, every day, learns something if you are open to learn. That's the part. As they say, that part. Keith Ann?
Hi, Mr. Lewis. I was trying to speak, but I don't know what happened.
No problem. Go right ahead.
All right. Monetary interest is the cost of borrowing money, is generally expressed as a percentage of the loan amount. Lenders charge borrowers for the privilege of using the money, and there are two main types of interest that include simple interest and compound interest. Simple interest is usually only the principal amount or the initial amount of the loan, while compound interest is the initial loan amount as well as the accumulated interest. Checks and balances. Checks and balances is a system where different branches or entities have powers to limit or check the actions of others. This is to ensure no single person has unchecked authority. This is what it's supposed to be, but unchecked authority. Then we have the stock exchange. Stock exchange is a market where stocks and bonds are bought and sold. The most famous stocks would include the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, and the London Stock Exchange. Prices of stocks are determined by supply and demand, and the market is supposed to be regulated to ensure fair trading.
Excuse me.
I don't really understand stock exchange, like the part of supply and demand. I understand that like in most markets, like when you consume a product, that's generally how it works, supply and demand. But I'm not sure how it works with like stocks or portions of businesses.
I'll explain.
Then for crypto exchange, it is a digital platform where people can buy and sell or trade cryptocurrencies. It is similar to traditional stock exchanges. However, instead of stocks, you deal with digital currencies. Examples of this would be Coinbase or Kraken. Regulations in the crypto exchange space can be varied in different countries, but crypto exchange is still generally new to the general public. That's all for me.
Okay, excellent job. Thank you for jumping in. I appreciate you for bringing it to my attention. Anybody else before I take off? Anybody else? Okay, to explain the stock exchange process, I'm going to keep it short because it can get real deep. I'm just going to use this mug for an example. It's a cold mug, so it's something that most people right now are into. You try to pick a product that you want to buy stocks in that you know will do well. It's called a thermo cup, and pretty much everybody knows about them now. So the way that works, the way stocks works is, let's say ABC company produces thermo mugs, okay? And ABC, brand new company, says, we have the market's best thermo cup and it holds 64 ounces, and this is the one that you want to have in your life and all this. You get a commercial. Remember, let's follow this roll because you're going to see it again. You put a commercial out, you have a product, you get on the NASDAQ or the stock exchange, and you put ABC Company 1 for thermal cups. You as an investor on the stock exchange are going to look at a list of companies, a bunch of companies. Everybody's trying to get on there and try to make their company go skyrocket and all this. Now, let's say that you own that company and you say, well, ABC1 is going to get on NASDAQ and we are featuring one product and we're going to do it well. That's your motto. Then people get wind of it. So ABC1 is the ticket on your stock on the stock exchange. So now you take the ABC1 stock shares. Okay, let's say these are 10,000 shares each and they're worth whatever. Like was said, that's how you raise money to do the commercials, to put on TV so people see it and go buy it, right? That's the process. But these shares that you bought or that someone bought in your company are pieces of your company, okay? When they bought it, they bought $10,000 worth. And let's say that your stock was only $2, all right? So when they do that, they back ABC1 company to have the means to go do commercials and sales and colors and all this. And let's just say everybody loves this mug and they start buying it left and right. It's everywhere. The stock value went from $2 to $50 a share, and you have 10,000 pieces of it. Well, yeah, 5 and 5. Let's say 5,000, 5,000. When you bought them, they were $2. A year down the road, they're worth $50 a share, and you have 5,000 of them, 10 to be exact. That is buying pieces of a company. These are shares, a portion of their overall worth. Their net worth is now $50 a share, but you bought them at $2. You have a massive amount of dividends. Remember, whatever you earn off of something you put in investment is considered a dividend, a payment from that stock. Now you can elect to sell half and keep half, hoping that the value of this mug continues to rise. And over time, that's how it works. Once it plateaus, let's say everybody got one, nobody's buying them that much anymore, then the stock, instead of being a rise, it'll kind of kick off a little bit and go this way. It's not going this way anymore, it's going this way. That's called a plateau. That means it's not really gaining a whole lot, but it is still gaining. It's on a rise, but it's not like this. So that's what a stock in a company is. It's a very small portion of its profit margin. As it makes money, you make money because the price of the stock rises. The stock goes down, you lose money. So it's a volatile way to make a profit without knowledge. And then knowledge of things that are going to go like this should be, now listen, this is important because we're going to get into that right after this, should be chance, or if you really watch a company. Don't just buy a stock because they say, oh, it's going to do this, it's going to do that. What is the product and how many people are buying it? That's how you pick a stock. And how early did you get on with that company? So you have to do a whole lot of due diligence on a company first. What are they doing? How are they promoting it? And what are they doing as far as, how well is the product? Because you could do all that work with a piece of junk and it not work. Let's say the thing gets cold for a little bit and it warms up because the insulation is too thin. So there's many things that you're supposed to do your due diligence. You're going to hear that word a lot. Let's put that down for next week. Due diligence. Due diligence is your ability to check it out. You have to be the little investigator. How long has the company been up? What is their, dig up as much information on that company as you can to make an educated decision whether or not to invest with that company. Okay? Investment should only happen after you are satisfied. That means you have to check them out. And not a lot of people do the proper due diligence on a company before investing. They go off of what they hear somebody else say. You don't do that with money, or let's call it right now, resources. You don't do that. Check it out thoroughly. That's on you, because when you invest, once you send the money over or the resources over, you can't pull it back. Well, you can, but then you become a high-risk investor, and they don't want people like that. They want people to put money or resources in a position and let it stay there a minute, because they're using those resources to do whatever they need to do. Commercials, like I said, it could be colors that they have to buy. They don't want to do them all black. It could be, the gauge of space in between the outer wall and the inner wall. I don't know if many people, or if you all know how these things work. They work off of air space. There's two walls. There's an inner wall and there's an outer wall. The space in between those two walls gauges how well this thing will stay cold or hot. Okay, if the gap is too close, then it's going to read the outside temperature of your ambient space and dictate whether it's going to melt the ice or cool off the coffee. Okay, so that's that. Due diligence. Now let's talk about this homework. And I do apologize when I started chuckling on this checks and balances. And the reason why it amuses me is because if you have been listening to any of the cases that have been brought forth by DOJ, and I know this is a very touchy subject for a lot of people, and I understand it, but I also want to put out, and like I said, I have to touch on this because it's important that you understand what the hell's going on. And I apologize for using colorful language, but it really upsets me to when I hear people make judgment calls uneducated. They go off of what they were told way back when. They were told to think a certain way, and they take it right here, straight to the heart. Okay, I'm this. You're that. Now, what I'm going to touch on this morning has everything to do with why we are even on this call. Finance, financial evolution. Okay? Those two things are why you are on this call. So let me jump into it and try to bring forth an understanding. And I want to really show the difference between the two monsters that we are currently dealing with. And I call them both a monster because no one is right or better than the other. But we're still on checks and balances. And I'm going to start with that definition. Checks and balances. It is a system that is devised to keep one from going higher than the other. So check and balance should be balanced, right? Balanced. You got to check everything so everybody stays balanced. Fine, that sounds great. But is it? Pause for a minute, and I want you to think about something. And this is the greatest downfall of all of us. We're all guilty of it. Some more than others. Now I'm going to start with equality. So let's put that one down. Financial equality. Because it's part of what I'm getting ready to talk about. When we say financial equality, what are we asking for? Simple. It's not complicated. You don't have to be a Harvard lawyer or a magistrate to understand equal. It's a very simple process. Everybody on this call knows the word equal. But I'm going to show you something. I'm going to bring out a few things so that you have a better way to do your due diligence and become aware of what has already happened to you. So we talk about checks and balances. And I ask if you've been watching any of the conversations from DOGE, which is appointed by the president to check and balance. See how I stuck that in here? You didn't even see why. Now you should see it. You did the homework and all of you said it. Excuse me. You all said it. A system devised to make sure things are fair. So when you say that, then the other part of that was it was devised for government to be equal and balanced and checked. 4 days ago, 3 days ago, DOGE started checking, looking for balance. The president's campaign No one heard it because everybody was so focused on hating the man. They didn't hear or chose not to hear what he said he was going to do. He said it. He told everybody what's going to come, what's going to happen. Prior to him, even his first term, which was learning the gig, being a president is not easy. It's not easy. On top of that, checks and balances came into effect second time around. And everybody is losing their mind. Why? I'm going to ask for you to think back for a minute. Most of you have, or at least seen your grandmother. And most grandmas could cook a mean cookie, right? Let's just say grandma made some cookies. You snuck into the kitchen, got a cookie, and ate it. Remember, checks and balances. Later on that evening, grandma know how many cookies she made. She made them. So there's no question as to what was there. So grandma asked a question at the dinner table. Who had the cookies? At that moment, you have the opportunity to come clean and say, Grandma, I had a cookie. 9 times out of 10, she wouldn't hit you or go violent because they look to see if you have the qualities, integrity, honesty, to say, Grandma, I had a cookie. But if you decide to clam up, sit back, and see who else is going to talk, when you know full well your check was made, it's called checkmate. Grandma know you had a cookie. No, somebody had a cookie. She wanted to see if you were going to admit to it. Fast forward to this situation that we are in right now. Checks and balances, a government system to ensure that the government is being fair. 3-4 days ago, Doge went through several different companies and found massive cookies gone. Massive cookies gone. Fast forward to Social Security. I don't expect you to understand what I'm going after and what I'm saying here, but it's still checks and balances. Now you have individuals that swear that this man is evil, the most evil thing walking the planet. Call him the devil himself. He just doesn't have the horns or the spiked tongue. Perception. That's what they want you to think. But I want you to do something for me. If an individual would rather hide the truth than tell the truth, what would you call that individual? A liar. Our conversation at the moment is on checks and balances. If I take your money, or you take your money, or basically they take money out of your income, your resources. They take a piece of your resources. Every job, I don't care what you're doing, they take a portion of your resources. and call it taxes. Due diligence. So if they're taking these funds from you and saying, we're going to use them to help the schools, we're going to make sure that you have infrastructure, we're going to make sure that your roads are good, and all of that, on and on and on. Lies. Complete and utter lies for years. But yet, they take the resources from your labor. The checks and balances are now being displayed for everyone to see. Now I'm going to ask a question, and if you still have that hate in your heart, then it's a lot deeper than that. Out of all the presidents past, out of all of them, even the semi-good ones, name one that wanted to show you where the money is going and where it has gone with actual numbers. Name one. You cannot, because it has never happened before. Now, let's get back to that table with Grandma. When she asked that question, did something go down your spine or down your back? That chill that you have been caught but not actually caught? That chill that goes down your back is guilt. Whenever you are caught, you know you're caught, you're going to get that chill that goes down your back. And a lot of you know what I'm talking about. That's the adrenaline rush. That's the guilt coming over you. You can feel it. How can I speak on it? Because I felt it. Why do you think I can talk about it? Checks and balances. Now, knowing that a system is supposed to be there to keep things legal and balanced, and all of these people violated it, and there's thousands, millions of people. But all of our judicial, legal system, monetary checks and balances are corrupt. Corruption, let's put that one in, is the mother of all deceit, because it makes people do things that hurt other people, period. That's just how it works. There is no other reason for corruption. And you're going to hear that again in a few minutes. So knowing checks and balances is supposed to keep everything good, keep everything balanced between all of us. It is supposed to be something good. You're going to hear that again. It is good. It is not when you have corrupt, evil people running it. Now, there's going to be a lot of debate. There's going to be people on this call that I'm going to more than likely upset with the next thing that I say. But again, everything is for debate. If we don't have conversation, we know nothing. So all the people around the country, I'm not going to say the world, I'm going to say the country, have a decision to make. And that decision is to, are you going to continue to hate blindly, or are you going to be part of the solution? And I'm speaking of everything, not just one man. I'm talking about the policies, the resources, everything. Like I said, no other president has ever shown you the money and where it's going. But yet, everybody is upset. I'm going to tell you why. The only reason why anybody would be upset is because you're guilty. If you took money, if you got paid not to say something, if you got paid to do a certain thing, if you got paid to look the other way, when you know something is wrong, or if you took that cookie and try to put it on your brother or your sister or somebody else, and you know you took the cookie, you're guilty. Why does everybody hate the present president? I asked that question in full faith. Why do you hate him? Most people cannot give you a good reason. The first thing they'll say is he's racist. If that man was racist, I would not be on this channel. A lot of you would not be walking free. And a whole lot more would be dropping dead in the streets. You have to understand the words you use to identify a person. Then you have to understand why you feel it. Why do you feel this way? Is it because something you heard, or is it something you know? How many of you do you really know the president? I've never met him either. Due diligence is everything. You have to investigate. If you don't know, don't speak, especially when you're saying something negative. Think first before you speak. Always do your due diligence. Check it out for yourself, not from what other people tell you. Because 9 times out of 10, the person telling it to you didn't do any sort of due diligence. They didn't look at the bigger picture of a process, checks and balances. The president and Doge are extremely business-minded. They're not political people. So you have to think, businessman, what does your bottom line look like? That's what any business person is going to do. How much money am I making? Where is my money going? Who's using that money? Did I authorize it? These are simple rules of being a business person or business, period. Simple 101 rules. How do you make money? By being efficient. When you're paying interest on a loan, why do you only pay interest? Because you allow them to check and balance your money. They tell you how much you're going to pay. When all you had to do is say, what is the minimum on the interest that I can pay? No one asks that question. They just say, okay, and make the payment. But you have the right to speak and you can ask a question. What is the minimum payment on interest on this loan? $30. Thank you. You only pay the $30. Everything else goes to the principal. But if you don't say that, at that meeting, at that interjunction with you making a loan, and get the clarity, due diligence on the money that you're paying, checks and balances. If you don't ask these questions, then you'll be taken advantage of, as most of us have been. Ask your parents, did they ever get a car loan? How did they pay that loan back? Every month, right? I even said it, pay it 3 days early. But now we're talking checks and balances. How do you stay ahead of your business? you have to keep the money right. And that's all he's doing. Why so many people upset? Why so many people trying to stop him? Simple. Because when Doge, the checks and balance police, let's call it what they are, go in and check, they're going to see a whole lot of this, hands in the cookie jar. And they don't want to get caught. They don't want to get caught. So you interfere. You step in and lie. Make excuses. So let's move on. The other thing that I heard, and I really do appreciate you guys, you do excellent homework, is the fact that if you don't read something and do something, you know nothing. A lot of the adults on this call are learning from you. I hope you know that. Now, going forward, I wanted to talk about one aspect at a time. Like I told you, is going to break down one thing. And I already spoke on it because it's so mixed into last week's homework, which is checks and balance. I did that on purpose because I knew what was happening with our country. Our checks and balance department is being exposed. Trillions of dollars have been stolen from us by our checks and balance division, the people that are supposed to keep things fair have not. They are all corrupt, period. All of us have the understanding of what has to happen. And all of us are part of it. I said something, I don't know if I said it on this call, but I'll say it again. When you hold up your hand and all of your fingers are together, it's hard to get in between, right? It's all together. But if you hold up your hand with your fingers spread, someone can get a finger and break it, right? Or it can get caught in a machine because it's out there by itself, right? Or if you got your hands spread like this and you're cutting, you're going to cut one finger. But if they're all together, the proper way to slice something, nothing gets cut because the knife rides on the knuckles. But if you got them like this, deep, this is us as a country, as a people. Right now, we're like this. Why are we like this? Due diligence. No one has really done the due diligence on the current president. No one is looking at what he's trying to do. Put us back together. We're all like this. He's trying to do this, right? But you have judges, police, and all these other people in between to keep this from happening. So as long as we stay like this, we are vulnerable. Financial understanding and financial foundation with a populace of people that understand how it works, you become this. But right now we're like this. and getting further. Every day that goes by, start watching YouTube. Don't watch the news because they're going to lie to you. Because the very people that want you like this own the news stations. That's why we're like this in the first place, because we listen to someone else. See how it comes back around? No one does the due diligence. When you go sit down and sit in front of CNN, you're hearing something from someone else that wants you to think a certain way. Are they going to give you the information to bring you like this? Hell no. They're going to want you to stay like this. But you, young people, are going to be like this because you're going to look, listen, and understand with an open heart. And we're going to stop this blind hate stuff. Blind hate is dangerous. It'll get you killed, literally. I ask most people, why do you hate him so much? They cannot answer the question. Oh, he touched a woman. Oh, he's a racist. He's this, he's that. But he's the only one trying to save your butts. Everybody in the world has taken advantage, and we have taken advantage of everybody around the world. Which brings me to my last portion of this call, which is the homework that MJ gave me. But I want you all to think differently. Remove the hate, the blind hate. That's what I'm going to call it, because that's all it is. He's no different than any other man that is trying to do something for this country or with this country. All the rest have ran you in the ground and you said nothing and took it. They put a brown man in there to get all of the brown people to stick with the agenda. Call it what it is. You have to be honest. So I will say this, and I want to make sure that everybody on this call understands something. Before you blindly hate and become part of the people that want you like this, think about what I just said. You're either going to be like this or you're going to be like this. It has nothing to do with color. They want to keep that color so we stay like this. Why do you think you keep seeing so many news things about blacks fighting drugs, this? They want to put your mindset that that's all you're capable of. Being a prostitute or a thug. Because they have got into the minds of some to present to you that's what you're supposed to be when you grow up. Absolutely not. But you have to be aware of what type of programming is being put out there. Can you recognize programming when you see it? I want you to stand on your own as little young adults. Don't get beyond your parents. That's not what I'm saying. But do your due diligence on things. Lead with a heart that is open. That's first. Second, be smart about things. If it don't sound right, 9 times out of 10, it's not. If there's any kind of shade in something that somebody's telling you or presenting to you, use discernment. Something we're getting ready to talk about again. Let's put that one into discernment. Watch the money. Just watch. On YouTube, you're going to see a lot of people talking about this or that. Some are telling the truth, some of them aren't. Some are just trying to make a name so they get a bunch of views. So they use things, technology, to make people say certain things. But due diligence and discernment will give you the ones to listen to. I could suggest a few, but I want you to find them on your own. Start gathering information that is being dispensed, especially from Doge, because he's telling all of us where the money went, who stole it. And it's starting at the very top of our government system. Do you think they want you to know how much money they've stolen? Do you think they want you to know how much money they have given their families that belong to you? Hundreds of billions of dollars. They don't want you to know that. Oh, it's none of their business. They're not supposed to audit us, but you are audited every year on my birthday. It's called taxes. They audit you. But when the audit is turned around on them, it's a problem. I wonder why. Why is it such a problem? All right, let's move on. Any questions on today? Because I'm going to do my homework last. It's rather long. Any questions?
Mr. Lewis, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So I was just wondering, who owns YouTube, and do you think it's a tool of confusion because of so much different information?
I don't know the owners, but I will agree with you. There's a lot of confusion on it. It is an open network for you to present your Fifth Amendment. It is a network of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people's opinion. So discernment is the ability. I don't want to give out I want your information on it. I'll just say use discernment on who you watch. But it's real easy. Bill Gates owns it. Thank you. It's okay. Information is information. It's what you do with it when you get it. Do you act on it? Do you become part of the problem that it is putting out? Or do you just take the information in and checks and balance it? Does it make sense? Is that what's really going on? So it involves involvement, just like my last request. And I'd like to know, and I'm going to ask, how many of you went to a town meeting since our last call? And like I said, you can now go online, so you don't even have to leave the house. Has anyone gone to a town meeting? And that goes to everybody on the call. How many?
Mr. Lewis, I haven't done it.
Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate honesty.
I have not as well.
I haven't either.
Thank you.
I haven't either.
Okay. So, again, you did, I did, Zoom user.
Mr. Lewis, excuse me, it's Anselma. I got a chance to attend and it was pretty interesting.
Mm,
Yeah,
say
it
the
was
least.
indeed. It was a little bit unfortunate though because one of the topics they had on stream, and I'm sorry for breaking. Apologies, sorry for breaking in.
It's okay.
One of the topics they were looking at was how much time should they give the public to speak at a given topic that was interesting for the community, and that was a mess.
See what I'm talking about?
But it never came to any conclusion with it.
No, they won't.
And that is for the town of Nantucket. Thank you.
And thank you. That, ladies and gentlemen, what she just said is the reason why they put up topics like that. Now, if they put up a topic or put it on the table to discuss, the time that you have to respond to any change or any kind of law that they're enacting, any kind of subject or something that's affecting you, and they put it on the table for discussion and nobody's in the room, guess what? They pass it. Now that discussion that she just spoke on is how long should we give them to say yes or no? They could say 1 hour. Any objections? If there's nobody in the room, nobody online, no objections, rule. You have 1 hour to appeal or table a conversation. 1 hour. And that passed because there was no one there. If you don't get involved now, you will never get involved. Young people, I've made this request twice to you. I didn't say you have to be there every day. I didn't say you have to do papers. All I said was be there. And you can go online. You don't even have to leave the house. You can be on your phone. Whenever they do it, find out when, start getting involved. Because if you don't voice it, you won't be heard. And that goes to a special person on this call. If you don't speak, you won't be heard. Your point won't ever matter because no one heard it. Don't be that person. Let your mouth and your heart speak, period. It's your right. A lot of people died so you could speak, have an opinion. A lot of people. Don't be quiet. Don't go view. And don't go here. That should put a light bulb. Speak, see, and hear. There's another book on that. I'll let you dig it up. Speaking of books, any questions before I jump into my homework? Any questions?
Mr. Lewis, just to go back on what you said about YouTube, I might be wrong, but YouTube is owned by Google. Google is owned by Alphabet Inc., and Alphabet Inc. is owned by Sean Putin or something, but it's not owned by Bill Gates.
Yeah, I don't know. I have not done the due diligence on it to answer that question, but you guys are doing it while we're on the call, and I appreciate that greatly. I will find out, and we'll have a discussion on it. But my point is, CNN, NB, all the big names where the news is coming from. The actual people that want you like this own those companies. And like I said, they're going to repeat over and over and over what they want you to think. So if they want you like this, they're going to tell you stuff to make you think and stay like this. But if you go to, we're talking about YouTube at the moment, you hear a lot of different versions of that programming. Some are telling the truth, some aren't. I'm not going to say YouTube is perfect. Nothing on this planet, other than the planet itself, is perfect. But we can do our best to investigate, do due diligence, have discernment, listen with our heart instead of our ears. Because you can listen with your heart and find out the person that you're speaking to or the information that's coming in, how does it feel on you when you're listening to it from someone else? Always remember this part. Most information comes to you from someone else talking, like I'm giving you information. How do you feel about that information that's coming from me? Does it feel genuine? Does it feel made up so I can, invade on your Saturday morning for an hour? Does it feel like something that I could care less about this? It's all in how you feel. That's discernment at its highest level. Then you'll start to be able to listen with your heart instead of your ears. Awesome question. Any other questions before I go forward?
Morning, Mr. Lewis. I'm going to
Good
take a
morning.
second of your time because we're talking about town hall meetings. But I live in a community where we have these meetings ongoing, ball by ball. So are they piggybacking off a town hall, the town hall meeting? Okay, because it's like here, it's like every day, everything that happened. And we have these meetings and your community, we just got to go on. We got to hear what they're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep the town hall in mind too. Alrighty, thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome. The town hall meeting is the entire city to which you live in.
Okay.
Because the town hall works on ordinances, they work on laws for the entire state, which affects everyone. They work on different protocols, different programs that are built to assist the community, but don't talk about them to the community. The town hall is pretty much the molding of the entire city. Each city has their own. Then you have county, then you have state. I don't expect you to make to all of them because there's a lot.
Okay.
But that one, the city where you live, where you presently live, you should be a part of.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. I'm going to jump on my homework. And before I go here, I want you to understand something about me. Okay? Number one, I'm not a priest. I'm not this choir boy person. I am not. By no means. I'm very respectful. I understand that you have to love people, but in the same respect, no part of what you think you know is that. Everything that I have learned it from my elders, my sisters and brothers, my own experiences. When I was young, I was just as wild as any other young Black male. I got into trouble. I was trouble for a lot of people. But that's the environment, not making excuses. I just need you to know who I am and what I'm willing to give to you as an adult. Your environment will basically mold you if you don't have guidance. I had a heap of guidance. My grandmother did not play. When I talk about the Apple switch, I'm talking from experience. My mother did not play either. That was her mother. She taught me things as a young man that most men don't know. She taught me how to treat a woman, what the woman represents. She taught me about manners. A lot. My father taught me how to use these things. He said, you should never, ever be hungry. As long as you have 2 hands and 2 feet, you can and will survive. So at 7, I was taught how to sweat pipes, plumbing. At 11, I had to break down an entire engine in the garage floor and put it back together and start it. At 11, I had to read the book on how to put bearings together. At 11, I had to understand how the ratios of baking powder to flour, sugar ratio made a biscuit. At 12. I was baking at 12. I was cooking long before then. My grandmother took me in the woods and taught me all the plants, poison ivy, poison oak, and all the other things, the edible berries, edible bushes as a young man. So before I go any further, you need to know who this information is coming from. I was not a church goer, didn't have time, I was working. Mother got into it, really didn't like it. Like I said, I'm Sioux Indian. So the actual church didn't kind of mesh with my background, but I still participated because you have to, what? Listen with your heart first. You have to listen with your heart first, then the ear. So information to me is information. I take it in as information. I process it due diligence. And then I form my own thought, opinion on it. So what I'm about to read to you is my opinion, my understanding. First and foremost, if I'm not mistaken, MJ, you asked me to read a passage a day on Genesis, correct? MJ,
Yes, Mr. Lewis?
that was your request to read a passage of Genesis, correct?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yes, it was.
just want to make sure I did the right homework. Thank you. So when MJ requested me to read a passage a day, I said, okay, well, that was an interesting request. No problem. I read the entire book every day. And every time I read it, something else stepped out. And this is what I have from my homework. Now, we all know that Genesis is the beginning of everything. Now, again, I'm going to say this out of respect for those who are devout Christians and you live that book, the book. You are part of the book. We all are. But I still say this out of respect. It's a book. No one man can prove it or disprove it. But I'm going to bring up some things that I hope makes you think. Now, we've already talked about programming. We've already talked about how one would want a group of people to feel so that they stay like this. They don't want this. Unity is the most dangerous thing to a person that wants to control. They cannot control people that are united. Cannot. It's when they're like this. I told you to do this. Okay, we'll do it. I told you to do this. No, we're not going to do it. I told you to do this. Okay, we'll do it. I told you to do this. You see what I'm getting at? Some will stay behind their belief. Some will fold. Okay? Real simple process. The book of Genesis is the first book of the Bible, the creation. This is when everything happened. When I say everything, most people think the world. Or for those who don't read, man. They look past all the other work that was put forth prior to the man. And there's a lot of information in between those two. A lot of information. Most people jump to, when you say Genesis, the creation of man. I got it right. I got it right. But did you? Ask yourself, when people say Genesis, what do you think about? The beginning. Now, I'm not going to preach, but I am going to say this. The beginning is far beyond man itself. There was a whole lot put together before even man was created. Whole lot. The expanse, the stars, the moon, and let there be light, the sun. All that was before man was put here. The animals beat us here. Think about it. Think about it. The animals were here before us. So who really owns, who is the first to walk the planet? Animals. Second to grace the planet was man. Not in that direct order, but let's say events led up to that. Sun was created, the expanse, the planet, the vegetation, the animals, everything beautiful, everything in unity together, united. There was the lions could sit next to deer. There was no hate. There was none of that. These animals walk side by side. Then here comes man. Very important part that I read it. Like I said, I read the book 4 times. And this kept sticking out to me. First was created man. And it was good. Remember that? Second was created woman from his rib. Think about it. Now, prior to the female being created, Adam walked the garden. Adam was in direct communication with God himself. Stop and think for 1 second. Direct communication with God himself. You could talk to no other but the creator of everything you see. God commanded, listen to me, commanded Adam of all the things good in the garden. I'm going to ask all of my people here, including you, young people. If I told you in my garden to where I let you live, you could eat anything and everything except the tomatoes. And I told you everything else is good that is not. What would you think about the tomato? Pure question to my young people. What would you think about the tomato? I need you to answer, please.
Well, I would think not to eat it.
Plain and simple.
Oh, wait, eat it.
You wouldn't eat it, right? Anybody else? What would you think of the tomato itself, though?
Poison.
Poison. Anybody else?
I would think that it's just there.
It's just something to look at. Anybody else?
Well, I would think that it's something unholy or
Okay.
something bad for the body.
Anybody else? I need your input because I need you to think and see where I'm going with this.
I would think it's poison.
Poison.
Don't eat it.
You would eat it?
Don't.
You wouldn't eat it. Thank you.
I would also think it's poisonous.
Poisonous.
I would think it's bad or poisonous simply because God said, in the day that you eat.
Kids.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is their call.
Forgive me. I heard adults talking earlier, so I didn't know.
Yeah. This is for them to answer. I need them to think.
Okay.
That all of you, I'm missing at least two that I know of. What would you think of the tomato? All right, I'm going to move on. So again, we're in the garden. He was told things that are good, things that are not. It was a command from the Creator himself. This book explains 90% of why we are in the situation we are in at this very moment. But this book also is very chauvinistic, extremely chauvinistic, and I'll explain why. So after being told by the Creator, don't eat from this tree of knowledge, which it was, right? There was no question. Creator said, don't eat it. He didn't eat it. Then, from his rib, from bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, his companion was created. Now, if you know anything about the body, memory is contained in the bone. Long memories in the long bones, short memory is in the short bones. The rib is next to what? The stomach. If the rib has memory of what has gone through the stomach, then it would know from that point not to eat from it, because it has never passed those bones. The memory of that fruit is not in the bone. Woman was created from the flesh, from the bone. Here's the chauvinistic part of the Bible at the very beginning book. It put the woman as a companion to the first man. All good, but it had to come from him. Him, that was done. So most people look over it, they see it, they hear it, but do you understand it? Because without him, she would not exist. Now watch. Here's where it gets crazy. They walk throughout the garden, months after years after months together. Walk past everything there. She knew of all things good, all things no. Temptation is part of all things living. And you will find that very shortly. A lot of you already have dealt with it. Temptation is the root of division. So one day the serpent caught Eve alone to speak deception in her ear. It is good. It's coming from the tree of knowledge. You will know everything. He created it. It's here for you. You should eat of it, right? You should eat of it. Convinced by something she heard. The conception of greed to know more of what was already given. I want to know more. That's the mindset the woman was put in. Follow me. Where's Adam? Somewhere dipping his toes in the lake. They were always together. Why are they separate? Not that, people, husband and wife supposed to be stuck together. You go in different locations, but the knowledge of preset information was good. The whole time they did not eat from that tree, they did not have sin in their heart. They did not have that separation. They did not have all the things that came behind it. So she takes the apple, brings it to Adam. Now, Adam has been in this garden since the day of his conception. He knew every part of the garden. Think about it. If I put you in a garden and fed you from an infant and you went nowhere else but that garden, you would know every plant, every bug, every hairy animal, whatever, in that garden, because that's the only expanse you have ever experienced your entire life. Yes, you would know everything in that garden, including a tomato, because I told you about it when you first learned about everything in there, good and bad. Think for a second. She gets 2 apples from this tree because the serpent said, take the apple and eat and take it to your counterpart, that you shall eat and gain knowledge. Because you guys are like this right now. I get, his mindset, I got to break this up. These 2 run around here naked and ain't no problems. We need some problems. Here, eat this, you'll get the knowledge. That's the cover story. But what's the agenda behind the cover story? I need to break y'all up. See how this stuff comes back around? Thank you, MJ, because you have not only brought all of us to the point from the past, right here. Watch this. She brings the fruit to Adam. Said, here, eat. Now, Adam, being I'll just use words that make sense, the supervisor of the garden, knows every plant. He knew what this was. It's the apple from the tree of knowledge. You know every plant in your garden. But because it came from Eve, here, eat. See how they put her in the deception pocket? They put Eve as the creator of deception. And because Adam followed the woman instead of the creator, she got in between man and the creator. So you have to listen, you have to see, you have to follow the story. I don't even have to go through the rest of my homework. If you just catch this part, chauvinistic will put the man be above any and all things. She had to be casted in a light of deception. Why is that? Because she's a co-creator. She had to be put below everything, including the serpent, because she took information from the serpent. Bad information, greed, deception, and all things evil, the creator of sin itself, the act of sin, not the creator of it, the act of it, because they ate from the apple that they were told not to. Adam knew this before she was even here. Why would he eat it after? Think about it. Just that part of the homework should explain the rest of this. The creation of man, how it went from pure love, pure openness, to one to shield his body for fear of embarrassment, shame. But he was put on this earth completely naked. There was no clothing. There wasn't a J.C. Penney or a Walmart to go get some shorts and a t-shirt. None of that. Until he ate from the apple to see naked, to understand I shouldn't see that. Why do you think we wear clothes now? It's a sin to see the body naked. That's how you came in this world. When you come out of your mother, you didn't have on Nikes. You came into this world naked. The fact that you see the body, you feel ashamed. You can thank Eve for that. So we go into the creation of man, we go into the fights and all the apostles that happen, but everything below that portion of the story, the book should have only been that paragraph to me. The rest of this is just continuation of the same thing, just in greater portions. Greed, deception, death, repeat. You could use all the names and all this stuff. I got it all here, but Cain, Abel, and all that. Think about Cain and Abel. Jealousy, pure sin, because that's inbred. That's a thought that is here, that comes from the ear to the mind. Deception is the creator of evil. The willingness to end a life because of jealousy of that life. Jealousy, where does that come from? Deception. Poor self-esteem. The unwillingness to perform. Like I said, it's up to you. You have to be willing to take in information, process it, and then speak. That's why it's so important, sweetheart. Speak. You are not, and no woman in my eyes will ever be that woman. Eve was turned evil. And this book puts the woman at a disadvantage day one. The rest of the entire Bible is the same over and over and over. The rest of the entire book. It's a chauvinistic book. And a lot of people live this book, but can't follow any of its laws. Cannot. Judgment is upon us right now. A lot of people don't believe that. It's a different arc that we have to get on. It's a different form of judgment. But it all comes from, where's your heart? How do you treat people? How do you project yourself into society? Do you deserve a position on the ark? Do you love everything? Are you part of everything? Do you see yourself as part of that caterpillar that's walking across a blade of grass in Kentucky? Or do you even know about it? Are you part of the breeze in the sky that you feel when you step out the door? One thing you have to remember about the book of Genesis is that you were created in the image of a God. You were given the absolute blessing to be part of everything. Notice he was drawn up from the dirt and the dust of the land itself and created. So while you were gathered up, the dust is the falling of everything around you. Remember me talking about skin cells and asking you how many breaths did you take? You knew none of that. You're aware of it now, but you didn't know it. When that dust was gathered, was it just dirt? Or was it parts of everything that walked over that land before you were created? You ever go to a barber shop and look on the floor? It's hair, right? But from everybody. Everybody that day anyway. And if it's a nasty barbershop, it'll be everybody from the last couple of weeks. Clippings of hair on that ground. When you sweep up, gathered up the hair, how many hairs are in that dustpan? And from how many people? So when you gather the dust from the ground to create, you gather everything, not just dirt. Dust of everything. Plants, animals, water, stone, droppings of everything that walked that land prior to you being gathered up. You follow me? I bet none of you thought of it that way. But you have to, like I said, break things down. When you read something, see the picture. That's called visualization. So when I read the book, and I read it 4 times, that stuck out. That stuck out. Again, there's many tales, there's sections, Isaac, Jacob, sin, consequences. Remember me talking about that word? Consequences are in any and everything you do. Thought, speech, hearing, action. Everything you do, there's a consequence. That's One of the biggest reasons why we're in so much hell right now. There's no consequences to bad actions. There is a tablet that has the laws on it. Listen to this part and you'll see why. Before the tablet, back to Adam, God created him and told him things that are good and things that are not. Do not do this, do that. He was told. Fast forward to the tablets. Thou shalt not kill. What did Cain do? He killed. So that law was broken long before. So again, when you read something, see the pictures. When you read something, see the pictures. That is you bringing your opinion to the words that you are being fed, the information that you are consuming. See it. Does it make sense to you? The last two things I'm going to hit on as far as I'm concerned with this is faith and obedience. We cannot be obedient because of the action of Eve. We ate from the tree of knowledge. So we're disobedient from her action on. There is no erasing that. Disobedience is bred into us because of sins and consequences. You are born into it. Within seconds of your being brought into this world, what happens? You're covered, put into a clothing of some sort to shield your nakedness. Ashamed the second you come here. Why do you think most babies, that I've seen, I don't have children, so I just go by what I see, and you see it in different forms. First, when they're really, really little, they'll take their toes and kick the socks off. They'll pull the socks off with their feet because the hand and the foot is the same at the beginning. You can do all things with your feet that you do with hand. But we're taught to put on shoes, socks, to muffle the use of those toes. A monkey can grab a banana and peel it with his feet. People that lose their arms learn to do what? Everything with their feet. We say, ooh, that's disgusting. I wouldn't eat her food. She's using her feet. So there's a thing called soap. Some people that have their hands, I wouldn't eat their food because they don't even wash them. But my point here is this. Listen with your heart. Use discernment. There is no organ other than the pineal gland that will allow you to use discernment because that's where it comes from. And judge not. It is not your responsibility to judge any other human. That in itself is a sin. That's why I said we are full of it. That's why I ask you, before you blindly hate a person because of what you heard, First, listen with your heart. Use discernment. And judge not, or be judged. That concludes my homework for this week. Thank you so much, MJ. Any questions?
Montalvo, can I comment on the Google question from earlier?
Sure.
YouTube, as I think it was MJ said, it's owned by Google.